Hi everyone, I'm Kayla Collins here with Morris Creek National Battlefield, and I'm here today with another installment of Colonial Cooking in Kayla's Kitchen. So gather up some ingredients and we're going to get started here in just a second. For today's recipe, we're going to need several items. We're going to cook most of this recipe in a Dutch oven. This one is stovetop and oven safe. We're also going to need a small to medium sized saucepan. I have a beef roast here. This one is a chuck roast. Some thick cut bacon. This one is peppered. And then I have some root vegetables. I have 2 carrots, a parsnip, and a full onion, a couple of bay leaves. And then for the sauce today, we're going to use butter, lemon, another bay leaf, and around a cup of sour cream. Alright, we're going to start with the bacon with this recipe. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the bottom of our Dutch oven, and we're just going to line the entire bottom of this pan with bacon. The bacon I'm using today is coated in pepper. If you don't like pepper, you can use plain thick slab bacon, either way. The next step is to simply place your chuck roast on top of your bacon lined pan. Once your meat is ready to go, you need to prepare your vegetables. I have 2 carrots, and I'm simply peeling them. And then I'm going to chop them into small bite-sized pieces. And then I have 1 parsnip here. Parsnip is an unusual vegetable, but it can be used very similarly to a potato. And I'm going to treat it the same way as I do the carrot. I'm going to peel it and chop it into bite-sized pieces. Once your carrots and parsnip are cut into bite-sized pieces, you're going to take your onion. Now, you have a choice to make when it comes to the onion. You can either cut it and leave it whole, just cut the outside off, and put it in the pot. But if you like to eat onions, you're certain welcome to dice it into bite-sized pieces like you did your root vegetables. And that's how I'm going to treat the onion today. But if you don't like onions, leave it whole. You'll get a little bit of flavor added from that without having to bite into an onion. At this point, you can either put the onion in like this, or you can slice it into quarters to make smaller onion pieces in your Dutch oven. At this point, it's time to add your vegetables to your Dutch oven. I'm just going to slide all of this in off of the cutting board on top of my meat. I did go ahead and chop my meat into smaller pieces as well, so it would cook a little bit faster. You'll want your oven preheated to about 350 degrees at this point. Alright, the last step before you put this in the oven is going to be to season it up. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to the vegetables and just a little pepper. We have quite a bit of pepper in there already, so you can do salt and pepper to taste. And then I'm going to take 2 decent sized bay leaves and just drop them in. We're going to remove those before we eat it. And then put on a tight fitting lid. If you're using a Dutch oven lid will work perfectly for this. So you're going to cook this for around 2 hours if you're using stewed pot roast. If you're using a full pot roast in one piece, you're probably going to want to cook that for closer to 3 hours at 300 to 350 degrees oven. We're ready to make our sauce now. I'm going to start our sauce by putting a little butter and a bay leaf into the bottom of a small saucepan and just get that melted and going. Once your butter is melted, we're going to add some sour cream. I have about a cup here. There's no measurements in the original recipe, so cup, a small container, and then I'm going to do the juice of 1 lemon. So I'm just going to squeeze it in my hand so I make sure to catch any seeds that might fall out. There's half. And then the other half. And I'm just going to continually whisk this for a couple of minutes until it forms a sauce. I'm going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper as well. Alright, it looks like my stew and my sauce are both done. The stew or pot roast has been cooking in a 350-degree oven for about an hour and 45 minutes. Keep in mind, if you're doing a whole pot roast, that's one piece, you're going to want to cook it for a little bit longer than that. But you can see the meat's very tender. It's just basically falling apart. All the vegetables are tender. I got the bacon in the bottom that's cooked. All you want to do is take out all of your bay leaves. You should have 2 in the pot roast and 1 in your sauce. And we are ready to plate this meal and get to eating. Alright, now that the stew or pot roast is plated, I'm going to pour just a little bit of this white sauce over the top. And that's it. We are ready to eat. So this recipe would have been a common German recipe that came to North America with immigrants who were coming to the early American colonies. This recipe would have been common around the late 1700s into the early 1800s. And that's all we have for you for today. So thank you for joining me for another Colonial Cooking in Kayla's Kitchen. We hope to see you next time.